Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in 1 minute. Please ensure all your cell phones are on mute. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Military Science Department, we would like to welcome you to the 2023 Maverick Battalion Commissioning Ceremony. We are honored by the presence of friends and families of the commissionees. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of the National Anthem and remain standing for the invocation delivered by Cadet Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, please bow your heads with me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for blessing these cadets with the instruction and training over the last 4 years that has prepared them for this day. As these cadets commission and become lieutenants, bless them with the strength to live by the Army values, the knowledge and tactical prowess to win on the battlefield, and the humility to learn from their mistakes. Give them wisdom and guidance as they bear the responsibility for leading and caring for other men and women in this great nation's Army. Preserve them physically, mentally, and spiritually always, and let them come safely home when their service to this country is complete. In your name we pray, amen.
Please be seated. At this time, the Professor of Military Science, Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schleicher, will address the cadets.
Major General Retired Rick Erlinson, Colonel Glenn Helberg, Colonel Retired Robert Intris, Colonel Joseph Sharkey, Dr. Edward Inch, MNSU President, Dr. Gene Pfeiffer, Bethany Lutheran College President, Dr. David Hood, MNSU Provost, and Dr. Brenda Kelly, Gustavus Adolphus Provost, distinguished guests, Maverick Battalion cadets, cadre, family members, and friends. Good morning, and thank you for attending today's ceremony. Your support of the Maverick Battalion ROTC program and cadets is greatly appreciated. Many of you have heard me say this before, at least all the cadets have, but I'll say it again. The Maverick Battalion produces outstanding officers. They've done this for years, and it continues to be the case today with 14 new second lieutenants. I thought about why, what we're doing different, what they're doing different, and I've determined that it's because these cadets have established a culture of excellence. There's also a support network of excellence that includes our families, university partners, community partners that provide support, opportunity that enables our cadets to excel. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the Maverick Battalion Military Science Department. There are not many of us, typically 4 green suiters on any given day, 4 additional staff on any given day for about 80 cadets. But together, they have over 150 years of Army experience that they leverage on a daily basis to develop these junior leaders. Without their experience dedication to developing future Army leaders, commissioning these second lieutenants today would not be possible. Master Sergeant Adam Burgeon, our senior military science instructor and MS1 instructor. As of a few days ago, Major retired Mark Harriott, assistant professor of military science. I was the executive officer, also served as this group of commissionees MS3 instructor and military history instructor. Major Jake Young, assistant professor of military science. Major Ryan Mergen, assistant professor of military science and military history instructor. Captain Ashley Stefano, assistant professor of military science, Army National Guard liaison, and MS2 instructor. Mr. Randy Herman, Maverick Battalion recruiting operations officer, instructor, cadet mentor, just about everything else we do in the program. Also had a huge part in these cadets' path through ROTC. Mr. Jeffrey D., human resource assistant, Miss Christina Boyce, supply technician, and Miss Paul Lanzuris, university administrative assistant. Thank you for everything you do on a daily basis for these cadets to develop them into the leaders they are today. Before I introduce the guest speaker, I'd like to say that I'm extremely proud of these cadets who are about to commission. They're a truly outstanding group, and I'd like to highlight some of their accomplishments. Like I said before, they've established an environment of excellence and competition that motivates the junior cadets in the program, and it attracts new talent. They've done this through all the additional stuff, tasks, whatever it may be, they do on a daily basis in addition to getting their degrees and graduating college. It's truly remarkable. What impresses me the most about them is how they seek responsibility and service. Many of them have already served for years in the Army National Guard, the Army Reserve, and even the active Army. Today, they're seeking additional responsibility, and it speaks volumes about their character and about their potential. I can remember being a cadet a couple years ago and having to be a little more disciplined than my peers that weren't in the program, but I don't recall putting in the time inside and outside the program that these cadets have put in. Not even close. I'll highlight some of the things that they've done in addition to achieving their academic goals, graduating and pursuing their, in many cases, civilian careers as well. As you know, they've gone to PT 0600 3 days a week. None of their peers have to do that. Military science classes, leadership labs, field training exercises, all of which this group plans, resources, and leads. They've trained at Ranger Challenge, Ranger Buddy competitions, Northern Warfare Challenge, Norwegian Foot March, German Armed Forces Proficiency Badge, cultural and leadership programs, to name a few, airborne and air assault. Many of them are athletes, football, softball, gymnastics, swim, and some swimmers, all in this group. They've done internships and they've done clinicals. It's impressive. But what's more impressive is what they've accomplished as a team. This group was ranked 35 out of 273 senior ROTC programs across the nation this past year because of their performance at CST and because of their national ranking. It's truly impressive. They have, there's 6 distinguished military graduates among them, but all of them have the potential and the performance to achieve a national OML ranking that got them, in many cases, their first, if not second, choice of branches. They've contributed over 1,000 hours of volunteer time. That's here on campus, out in the communities, whether it's St. Peter down here in Mankato or surrounding, in schools all over the South Metro, all over the area. They've contributed immensely to the community. And as a result have created opportunities, scholarships for the program and for future cadets. Most notable, again, they've created a team that people want to be a part of. This year, this freshman class this year and next year are the biggest they've had, and it's because of the culture of competition and excellence that these cadets, soon-to-be lieutenants, have established. You've left the program much better than when you arrived. And I challenge you to leave every organization that you're a part of here forward better than when you arrived. Team, you've demonstrated that you're ready to lead and that you're ready to tackle whatever challenges face you. Again, I'm extremely proud of each and every one of you. At this time, I'd like to introduce today's guest speaker. Our guest speaker this morning is Colonel Joseph Sharkey. Colonel Sharkey currently serves full-time as the Joint Chief of Staff of the Minnesota National Guard with over 32 years of military service. Colonel Sharkey enlisted in the Army Reserve as an infantry rifleman in 1992 and is a graduate from the Army ROTC program at St. Cloud State University. He received a regular Army commission as a second lieutenant, Quartermaster Corps in 1997, and entered active duty. Colonel Sharkey has deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003 and 2005, and he graduated from the United States Army War College and resides in Elko New Market, Minnesota. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Joe Sharkey.
Well, good morning. It's an outstanding day here in Mankato. Truly outstanding accomplishments by this battalion. It's not easy running a battalion, and you know the testament today for this commander is these lieutenants about ready to be commissioned today. So for his leadership, let's give him a round of applause. Distinguished guests, fellow soldiers, families, and friends, it is my distinct honor and privilege to be speaking to you today. I'd like to send a special thanks to the ROTC Maverick Battalion, instructors, mentors, and staff. The Maverick Battalion is unique in that it includes ROTC cadets here today from Minnesota State University, Mankato, Gustavus Adolphus, and Bethany Lutheran College. Without their unwavering support and commitment for producing the only most highly qualified officers, you lieutenants might not be sitting here today. So join me in giving a round of applause, not only for the ROTC battalion staff, but for all the faculty and leadership that are here today from the many departments that supported these lieutenants through their academic program, as they also completed a very highly demanding program to make them second lieutenants today. So thank you very much. Lieutenants, now I'll be speaking to you. What you've accomplished today, this is no small feat. You, your families, friends, and loved ones should feel immense pride in what you have achieved. As a commissioned officer, you can expect now to be placed in assignments where you can develop your branch-specific technical and tactical skills while also developing leadership skills in your first entry-level assignment. Whether you're being commissioned on active, reserve, or National Guard component, that doesn't matter because it takes the entire force to execute complex operations throughout the officer ranks. All career models highlight the need to continue to gain operational assignment experience and then further focus on developing your leadership skills. Ladies and gentlemen, before hear us today, we have 14 second lieutenants that will serve in 8 officer career fields. These are called branches in the Army. These officers sitting here today will join the infantry, ordnance, medical service, field artillery, aviation, chemical, adjutant general, and nursing corps. Being selected into one of these branches is the culmination of the training process that begins from the first day a cadet steps on campus. As you graduate and commission today as a second lieutenant, your career as an officer is just starting. We have the greatest Army in the world, because the United States Army is a master of conducting combined arms operations. It takes the entire team from all branches to execute highly complex operations. You second lieutenants, you are this combined arms team that you're entering into the force today. In reflection last night, and it really was last night at the office, there's a former chief of staff in the office, so I know that individual can relate. A lot of stuff comes in, but I reflected on what I want to speak on. I've seen some speeches in the past from previous general officers but I focus on the past and the future. In reflection on the past, before I'll get into my remarks, it is just today, in speaking to those family and friends here today and scanning the audience. With us today, NCO during the Korean War. I see before us an audience, a Marine who is a Purple Heart recipient and Vietnam veteran. I see other Vietnam veterans in the audience. I'm sure we have Desert Storm veterans, and for me, fellow veterans in support of the war on terrorism. So if you are a past or current service member, it doesn't matter if you're a veteran, just go ahead and raise your hand so these lieutenants can see who's here to support them today. Cool. And I thank all of you for your commitment to service and for supporting these second lieutenants. As related to the past, it's not my own career I reflected on, but it was of 3 fellow officers in the audience experiences. Sitting with us today are 3 officers that have held high, served as the former 34th Infantry Division commander. Another, the former commander for the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team 34th Infantry. And then finally, the officer was the former Chief of Staff for the United States Special Operations Command. Combined, these officers have well over 100 years of service. With all the veterans, nearly 500 years worth of experience sitting here today. No one has seen it all, but I can assure you, there's no doubt that these officers have seen plenty throughout their careers. They've experienced the highs and the lows. They've achieved success and have been resilient through failure. Just remember this as you're, and it doesn't matter if you're in the military for your initial service or you make have in the audience today. You are going to experience those highs, those lows. Good things will naturally happen throughout your military career and then on into your civilian career, as we all enter it at some point when we take off this uniform. As related to the future, I went back and last night to a text exchange I had in February of this year, and it was actually with a cadet here from the Maverick ROTC Battalion. He had connected with me on LinkedIn. There aren't always something second lieutenants need to remember, but also senior officers and NCOs, warrant officers also need to remember. So here are the 4 points that I shared with this second lieutenant that is sitting in the audience today. First, don't let anyone discount what you've achieved to date by calling you the butter bar, or here comes our ROTC cadet. If completing ROTC and getting a 4-year degree, then everyone would do it. This is a huge accomplishment. It is demanding, especially for those that were coming from Bethany and Gustavus, driving through the winter storms to make it to campus for physical training, labs, all of you making it through Fort Knox, Kentucky, through camp, and making it through your 4-year degree program with the support of your academic leadership. That is a huge accomplishment. So never let anyone discredit what you're earning today. Second, this one I reflected on, and I told him, I know that we say, quote unquote, people first, but to me, it's the mission first. Ensuring our soldiers are ready, and that's either for training, if you're joining the National Guard, it could be for state active duty in support of your governor, active duty, non-active duty, reserve, that's non-combat operations, or it could be combat operations. It is your job as a second lieutenant in conjunction with your senior NCO to ensure that your soldiers are ready. That is your primary responsibility. Having served in the invasion of Iraq back in the day, I always try to remember that stuff can get real very quick. And training is what prepares us for the unpredictable. I shared a conversation with a nurse. Doesn't matter what branch you're going into. When the call comes, you need to be ready, and you need to ensure your soldiers are ready. Third, lead with dignity and respect. And I'll say this one again, lead with dignity and respect. This is a good way to end your career early, and it's definitely not a good way to lead, whether you're in the military or outside of the military, academic, corporate. A little empathy goes a long way. Work at making your worst soldiers a little bit better. Just remember, they were good at one point, and it is your responsibility as a leader to get them back to that point again. I see in the back of the room, and some of us are wearing recruiting badges. That is our responsibility, to motivate them, inspire them, to want to come in, swear the oath to this office. It's your job to retain these employees and soldiers. So do your job, lead them with dignity and respect, even at the times when you're most upset at them, unless it's something that is career-ending, and there's plenty of those examples out there. But if it's not, work on the rehabilitation through dignity and respect. And then finally, keep it simple. Listen to what your leaders tell you, write it down, execute the task by the suspense, and then move on to the next target. That drill got you to where you're at today, to be a second lieutenant. You met the requirements of your ROTC cadre, working with your faculty to make suspenses. You hold that same model once you commission, you're going to be highly successful. So in closing, as you embark on your new roles and expanded duties, remember to stay true to keeping character, competence, and commitment to duty at the center of everything you do. And you too will have a successful career that may match or surpass those in the audience today. I thank you for your service to our nation, and welcome to the Total Army team. Always ready. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for taking your time to address our Maverick cadets. Now we will recognize the cadets who will soon receive their commission as officers in the United States Army. During the ceremony, you will witness several traditions cadets go through in order to begin their journey as officers in the United States Army. The first tradition is the oath of office that publicly binds us by our honor and commitment to certain specific obligations, specifically to serve and defend the Constitution and our way of life. Second is the pinning of the gold bars. These bars are a visible symbol of the malleability of new officers, as well as the indication of our rank as members of the officer corps. Third is the giving and receiving of the first salute, a tradition between the new officer and non-commissioned officer. It is customary for the newly commissioned officer to present a silver dollar to the first NCO to salute him or her. This tradition dates back to the British colonial America and reflects the respect and confidence the new officer has for the NCO Corps. The final tradition is the receipt of the written commission, in which the Secretary of the Army assigns the new lieutenant the authority to accomplish the duties and responsibilities of their appointed rank. We will now have Cadet Cordelius Boyd come forward at this time. Cadet Boyd is from Mankato, Minnesota. He has been a member of the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years while serving in the National Guard. He will graduate with a degree in law enforcement from Minnesota State University and has served as a public affairs officer and Cadet Battalion S3 operations officer during his MS4 year. He will be branching infantry into the Minnesota Army National Guard. Cadet Boyd will now be sworn in by Major Retired Omar Harriot.
Discharge the duties of the office upon which So help me God. So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Boyd's mother, Melissa Blackstead, and brother, Cortez Boyd, will pin a rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Second Lieutenant Boyd's first salute is Sergeant First Class Fontaine. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Second Lieutenant Boyd is also recognized as one of the distinguished military graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Cordarius Boyd. We will now have Cadet Alyssa Buffington come forward at this time. Cadet Buffington is from Forest City, Iowa. She has been a member of the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years. She will graduate with a degree in psychology from Minnesota State University and serves as a Cadet Battalion S4. Cadet Buffington will now be sworn in by Captain Andrew Moss.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Alyssa Buffington,
Having been appointed an officer
having been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
of the Army of the United States
in the grade of Second Lieutenant,
in the grade of Second Lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter,
upon which I am about to enter,
so help me God.
so help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Buffington's father, Brian Buffington, and mother, Tora Buffington, will pin rank on her shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Second Lieutenant Buffington's first salute is Sergeant Debbie Bartleson. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Alyssa Buffington. We will now have Cadet Bailey Erlinson come forward at this time. Cadet Erlinson is from Woodbury, Minnesota. She has been in the Maverick ROTC program for 2 years and will graduate with a degree in biology from Bethany Lutheran College. Cadet Erlinson serves both Cadet Battalion Assistant S3 and Platoon Advisor her MS4 year. She is branching medical services in the Minnesota Army National Guard. Cadet Erlandson will now be sworn in. Major General Retired Rick Erlandson.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name,
I, David Rose Wilson,
having been appointed as an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States,
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant.
solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
and affirm
and affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
bear true faith and allegiance
to the same that I am this that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental
or
reservation
purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and I will love and faithfully discharge the duties of the office
in which I am about to enter,
of which I am about to enter.
so help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Erlandson's father, Trent Erlandson, and grandfather, Major General Rick Erlandson, will pin rank on her shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Second Lieutenant Erlandson's first salute is Master Sergeant Retired Gordon Harrod. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Second Lieutenant Erlandson is also recognized as one of the distinguished military graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Bailey Erlandson. We will now have Cadet Francis Binfinger come forward at this time. Cadet Binfinger is from Hemming, Minnesota. He has been part of the Maverick ROTC program for 2 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in biomedical science. He has served as a Cadet Battalion S5 recruiting and Assistant S3 in his MS4 year. He is branching field artillery in the Minnesota Army National Guard. Cadet Binfinger will now be sworn in by Major Retired Omar Harriot.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Francis Woodruff Binfinger,
Have been appointed an officer
I have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States,
in the Army of the United States
grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant.
solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
that I make this obligation freely,
that I make this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter,
upon which I am about to enter.
so help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Finfinger's father, Leslie C. Finfinger, and mother, Michelle Finfinger, will pin rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Second Lieutenant Finfinger's first salute is Sergeant Leslie M. Finfinger. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Brandon Finfinger. We will now have Cadet Ashley Gettle come forward at this time. Cadet Gettle is from White Bear Lake, Minnesota. She has been part of the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years and will be graduating from Gustavus Adolphus College with a degree in nursing. She has served as both a Cadet Battalion S5 retention and alumni officer during her MS4 year. She is branching active duty nurse corps. Cadet Gettle will now be sworn in by Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schleicher.
I, Ashley Gettle, having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States in the grade of second lieutenant, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Gettle's father, Doug Gettle, mother, Lisa Gettle, and sister, Emily Gettle, will pin rank on her shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Second Lieutenant Gettle's first salute is Sergeant Bill Gettle. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Ashley Gettle. We will now have Cadet Kuika Hashimoto come forward at this time. Cadet Hashimoto is from Mankato, Minnesota. He has been part of the Maverick ROTC program for 2.5 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in psychology. Cadet Hashimoto has served both the Cadet Battalion Assistant S3 and Command Sergeant Major. He is branching active duty aviation. Cadet Hashimoto will now be sworn in by Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schleicher. At this time, Second Lieutenant Hashimoto's mother, Sydney Hashimoto, will pin rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, riding Second Lieutenant Hashimoto's first salute, Sergeant First Class retired Chris Hashimoto. At this time, the Professor of Military Science presenting the commissioning certificate. Second Lieutenant Hashimoto is also recognized as one of the distinguished military graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Koika Hashimoto. We will now have Cadet Hans Hellberg come forward at this time. Cadet Hellberg is from St. Louis Park, Minnesota. He has been part of the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years and will graduate from Minnesota State University with a degree in history and political science. He has served as Cadet Battalion Commander and Public Affairs Officer during his MS4 year. He is branching active duty infantry. Cadet Hellberg will now be sworn in by Colonel Glenn Hellberg. John Hellberg, mother Chris Hellberg, and grandfather Lieutenant Colonel retired Jim Hellberg will pin rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Second Lieutenant Hellberg's first salute is Master Sergeant Adam Bergeron. At this time, the Professor of Military Science presenting the commissioning certificate. Second Lieutenant Hellberg is also recognized as one of the distinguished military graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Hans Hellberg. Spencer Interest come forward at this time. Cadet Interest is from Owatonna, Minnesota. He has been in the Maverick ROTC program for 3.5 years and will graduate from Minnesota State University with a degree in criminal justice and law enforcement. Cadet Interest has served both as Cadet Battalion S3 Operations Officer and Battalion Commander during his MS4 year. Cadet Interest will be branching active duty infantry. Cadet Interest will now be sworn in by Colonel Retired Robert Interest.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Spencer Robert Interest,
Having been appointed an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant.
do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and I will well
and faithfully
and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Interest's mother, Heather Interest, sister, First Lieutenant Ashley Interest, will pin rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Lieutenant Interest, First Salute, Sergeant First Class, Adam Schwickenberg. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Second Lieutenant Interest is also recognized as one of the distinguished military graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Spencer Interest. We will now have Cadet Demi Jones come forward at this time. Cadet Jones is from Jacksonville, Florida. She has been in the Maverick ROTC program for 2 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a master's degree in mental health counseling. Cadet Jones has served as Cadet Battalion S2 Intelligence Officer during her MS4 year. Cadet Jones will be branching Adjutant General in the Army Reserves. Cadet Jones will now be sworn in by Major Retired Omar Harriet.
Raise your right hand. I state your name. Born an officer in the Army of the United States. Grade of second lieutenant. Solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office which I am about to enter. So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Jones' spouse, Kimball Bradley, and mother, Frederica Jones, will pin rank on her shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Second Lieutenant Jones' first salute is Gunnery Sergeant Retired Alton Cohn. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Demi Jones. We will now have Cadet Jacob Just come forward at this time. Cadet Just from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He has been in the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years and will be graduating from Gustavus Adolphus College with a degree in biochemistry and molecular biology. Cadet Just has served as both a Cadet Battalion Executive Officer and Assistant S3 during his MS4 year. Cadet Just will be branching medical services into the South Dakota National Guard. Cadet Just will now be sworn in by Second Lieutenant Dalton Dolly.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jacob Just,
Have been appointed an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States,
in the grade of second lieutenant.
and the great second,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith
of their true faith,
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Just's father, Sean, and mother, Gwendy Just, will pin rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Lieutenant Just's first salute is Sergeant Sean Just. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Jacob Just. We will now have Cadet Nicholas Kleppinger come forward at this time. Cadet Kleppinger is from Andover, Minnesota. He has been in the Maverick ROTC program for 2.5 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in aviation professional flight. Cadet Kleppinger has served as both Cadet Battalion Executive Officer and Platoon Advisor during his MS4 year. Cadet Kleppinger will be branching Adjutant General in the Minnesota Army National Guard. Cadet Kleppinger will now be sworn in by Major Retired Omar Harriot.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Nicholas James Logan,
Have been appointed an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the grade of second lieutenant.
in the grade of second lieutenant,
Solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same.
to the same,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
which I'm about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Klepinger's father, Brian, and mother, Lori Klepinger, will pin rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Second Lieutenant Klepinger's first salute, Senior Airman Brian Klepinger. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Nicholas Klepinger. We will now have Cadet Jacob Crucell come forward at this time. Cadet Crucell is from Hudson, Wisconsin. He has been in the Maverick ROTC program for 3 years and will be graduating from Gustavus Adolphus College with a degree in exercise physiology. Cadet Crucell has served as both the Cadet Battalion Command Sergeant Major and Platoon Advisor during his MS4 year. Cadet Crucell will be branching aviation in the Minnesota Army National Guard. Cadet Crucell will now be sworn in by First Lieutenant Samuel Dayak.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jacob Purcell,
Having been appointed an officer
having been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
That I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
That I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter,
So help me God.
so help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Crucell's father, Jim, and mother, Christine Crucell, will pin rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Lieutenant Crucell's first salute is Master Sergeant Adam Bergen. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting a commissioning certificate. Second Lieutenant Crucell is also recognized as one of the distinguished military graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Jacob Crucell. We will now have Cadet Alex Lee come forward at this time. Cadet Lee is from San Francisco, California. He has been in the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years and will be graduating from Gustavus Adolphus College with a degree in Communication Studies. Cadet Lee has served as both Cadet Battalion Assistant S3 and Platoon Advisor during his MS4 year. Cadet Lee will be branching active duty chemical corps. Cadet Lee will now be sworn in by First Lieutenant Jake Vaness.
I've been appointed officer in the Army of the United States. In the grade of second lieutenant. Do solemnly swear. That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office about which I'm about to enter. So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Lee's mother, Monica Lee, and uncle, Ok Kyun Kim, will pin rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Second Lieutenant Lee's first salute is Staff Sergeant Logan Woods. At this time, the Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, Alex Lee. We will now have Cadet John Marcella come forward at this time. Cadet Marcella is from Virginia, Minnesota. He has been in the Maverick ROTC program for 2.5 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in Human Resources. Cadet Marcella has served as both Cadet Battalion S1 personnel and S8 Finance Officer during his MS4 year. Cadet Marcella will be branching Ordnance Corps in the Army Reserves. Cadet Marcella will now be sworn in by Major Jacob Young. At this time, Second Lieutenant Marcella's father, Steve, mother, Kathy Marcella, and girlfriend, Taylor Malos, will pin rank on his shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, providing Lieutenant Marcella First salute is Sergeant First Class Anthony Marcella. At this time, Professor of Military Science is presenting the commissioning certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest Second Lieutenant, John Marcella. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give one more big round of applause to the newly commissioned officers of the United States Army. Please rise for the playing of the Army song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the commissioning ceremony. Thank you again for your attendance and support.
Can you make a